What is up, everybody? Back on some Diablo 3 for the new Necromancer DLC. If you didn't know, the Necromancer is now available in Diablo 3. Costs 15 bucks, and it comes with 2 stash tabs, as well as some new areas, I think in Act 2, something like that. But I was new to this, got a new build. Now I have all the pieces, and I understand the skills. I get asked a lot during my stream what build I'm running, what skills I run, what's my gear, what roles you want. So I think I've got a good enough grip on the build and the skills to explain it and do a little build video. So first off, this is the bone armor set. It's called the Inarius. It's a 6-piece set. We'll go over the gear after the skills. For me, you can put these wherever you want, but these are the skills that you want to run. Grim Scythe. I run the Curse Scythe one. This here is your main attack. This is what you're hitting with a lot, and it does a lot of damage. There's some weapons that you use that synergize really good with this skill. Your huge damage dealer for Rift Guardians and Elite packs is Corpse Lance, and I use the Brittle Touch. It's a cold based. This is very, very good, and it's very strong, and also synergizes really well with the set. Then, of course, you need bone armor, and I run the poison one, the dislocation. I'm not going to really go over all of the things that the skills read. You guys can do that. Just going to try to do a quick rundown on the set. But dislocation build here works really, really good. Does a lot of damage and gives you a bunch of protection and gives you damage as well with the synergies from set pieces and other items. The curse that I run is Decrepify with Dizzying Curse. This one works really good, and you can stun enemies. You can spam this if you need to get some stuns up, and this works really good with your bracers that you run, the Ancient Parthan Defenders. So this is real important. It also synergizes with the gear. Land of the Dead. This is what you use when you're fighting elite packs and don't have corpses. So Corpse Lance itself doesn't work without corpses, and I'll go over the cycle and how you use the build at the end after I go over the gear. So if you're wondering how you actually use the build, don't worry, I'll explain that as well. But you can't use Corpse Lance unless it has bodies on the ground, and Land of the Dead makes it so that you can just spam them for 10 seconds. You don't need corpses. So this is really good for Rift Guardians or elite packs when you don't have trash mobs around to feed them the corpses. But it's got a long cooldown, so make sure if you're near the end of a rift and you are facing a pack that you are having troubles with, you might not want to use it because the Rift Guardian is going to be a pain in the ass without this. Then you want your mobility skill, which is also a toughness increaser. Blood Rush. This is like a teleport. It's really awesome, and it doubles your armor for 2 seconds after you use it. It's essentially a teleport. As far as passives, I run Standalone. This increases your armor by 100%, but it's reduced for each active minion. I don't run any minions, so this doubles my armor. Spreading Malediction gives you a 1% damage bonus for each enemy afflicted by one of your curses. So you want to make sure you pop your curse, Decrepify, or whatever curse you're running. I run Decrepify with this build, and that's what you should probably run. I'm going over this first as a solo build, and then I can go over what I change around when I'm running in a group, because there is a little bit of changes that you can do in a group. This is the passive that I change out when I'm running in a group. This is my solo passive here, Blood is Power. After cumulatively losing 100% of your maximum life, all ability cooldowns are reduced by 20%. It cannot reduce an ability's cooldown more than once for each time that the ability is used. It's a decent chunk of cooldown reduction for your Land of the Dead, and when I did a Greater Rift, 85 is the highest I've tried. I did it, man, it was pretty easy. This was definitely useful. Now, Overwhelming Essence increases your maximum essence by 40. It's also really good, which also gives you more damage with synergies from weapons and stuff. Now, if you're running in a group, rather than Blood is Power, I think one person in your group should run Rigor Mortis. So you might want to run Rigor Mortis. What it does is poison abilities also slow enemies by 30%, and reduce their attack speed by 30% for 5 seconds. So your main attack, Grim Scythe, and your Bone Armor is both poison. So whenever you hit anything with either of those, you're slowing them and slowing their attack speed. Really, really good. Another one that's decent if you just want more damage is this here. It gives you 15% attack speed from your Grim Scythe. Either of those work for group play. If someone's already running Rigor Mortis, you could run Swift Harvesting, or you could just stick with Blood is Power, but I couldn't really find anything else that would actually work really well with this build. So that's pretty much it for the skills. As far as items, first off, you need the 6-piece set of Inariuses. And this is a really good set. You won't really feel the full potential of your build until you get 6 pieces of this. I've only played the game for 1 day and got the full set, got some good pieces, and it's really, really strong. So you need the head, the shoulders, the gloves, the chest, the pants, and the boots to build this set. Now, I'll go over each one of these pieces of this set and what you kind of want to prioritize. You don't necessarily need to have these, but these are what are usually the best. I'm not going to say they are the best, but some good ones to have. So this is a Primal Ancient. If you didn't know, Primal Ancients roll with max everything. It's a rare thing to find. You can't get them unless you've completed a Greater Rift solo level 70. Once you've done that, you can start getting Primal Ancients. I've found 2 of them so far in my 2 days or 1 day of playing, and pretty awesome. And when you re-roll, it's also going to be 100% max rolled. Your armor, everything's going to be max rolled. What you want on these is int and vit for sure. You want corpse lance damage, and then either cooldown reduction, life percent, or armor is what I would recommend. Those 3 things work really good. Unfortunately, mine didn't roll that. Corpse lance damage is really important, so you definitely want that on there. But as far as other than int and vit, cooldown reduction seems to be the go-to that everybody's running. Life percent or armor. Some people might run area damage, but I wouldn't really recommend it with this build. It's not really necessary, and I think you'll be better off with the others. Now, the helmet, obviously you want int, vit, and crit. Couldn't imagine running anything else on your helmet, and a socket. So that's pretty basic there. Chest piece, int, vit, and armor is what I run. I think I've seen some people running their chest piece with a skill on it. I believe you can get... What can you get as your chest piece skill? Do I have a spare chest piece here? I think I got rid of it. So I'm not super familiar with all of the roles that can potentially be on these gears yet, but I believe most people are running invit and armor. You can run invit and life percent, or potentially a skill on there. And I'm not certain if the skill is... I think it's the corpse lance that you can run on a chest. Let's look at the leaderboard real quick. If you're also really curious, you can always Shift L, bring up the leaderboard, and view hero details on some of the top ones. Okay, so this guy's running bone armor damage and life percent. Sometimes life percent is actually better than vit when you have crazy Paragon like this guy, because you already have potentially a ton of vit. So life percent can be better, but you definitely want either int and vit or int and life percent. And he's running bone armor damage, which seems kind of weird, but what's this guy running? This guy's running int, vit, and life percent. This guy's running int, vit, and corpse lance. So any combo of those, int, vit, life percent, int, vit, armor, int, vit, corpse lance, all of those can work. So it's not necessarily you have to have one specific one or it's not going to work. People are running different variations. Like that's another life percent one. And this guy's a corpse lance one. So really preference, or really determines by how yours dropped. I didn't have vit on mine. It already had armor. So for me, obviously, vit is what I needed. You want to socket that up with your gems. By the way, I use a cooldown reduction gem in my helmet. You could always run a life percent gem if you're having struggles, but cooldown reduction's real nice. Gloves are pretty basic. I prefer int, vit, crit damage, and crit chance. Some people might drop the vit for attack speed. I'm not certain what the people on the top of the leaderboards are running. Again, you don't necessarily want to copy their builds completely because most of these guys have insane amounts of Paragon. So what works for them might not work for you. So don't just copy them and do what they're doing just because. Like, see this guy, he's running attack speed. He doesn't have vit on his gloves. Trifecta, that's really good. You're doing the most damage there. So either int vit, crit damage, crit chance, or int attack speed, crit damage, crit chance. That's what you're going to want on your gloves. Also, basically depends on how it drops. If you can have the trifectas with no vit, go for it, especially if you can stay alive. Highly recommend. Now, we did chest already. Pants. Int, vit, and I do Grim Scythe damage. You can also do armor. You could also do... I don't think you can get life percent unless they're Blackthorns, but it's been a while since I played. Int, vit, Grim Scythe, int, vit, armor. Both of those are good options. I went with the Grim Scythe. I could re-roll it if I wanted. They're good the way they are. Boots, int, vit, armor. I have move speed on mine. I had enough Paragon that I was able to drop some of the move speed off my Paragon, add extra int, because you can only cap out at 25 move speed. So I only actually needed 14 movement speed into my Paragon points to max me out. And I rolled armor onto mine. What else can you roll here? Let's see. I think you can get a skill on them. Again, I'm not super familiar here. Let's see. Armor, you can get... Nope, can't get a skill. So I would recommend armor on there. Bone Spear, Death Nova, Skeletal Mage, or Life Regen. So armor's really what you want, I would say, because nothing there is anything that I would ever have on this build. All useless, so boots are pretty simple. And that's it for that set. That's the 6-piece set that you want to get. The next set that you want to run is the Traveler's Pledge Compass Rose set. It's called the Endless Walk. Fortunately, I already had a good pair from my old wizard. And what you want on this is a socket. That's most important. Crit chance, crit damage, and either main stat or elemental damage. Some people run... Like, cold damage is your main damage dealer. Even though you're running around hitting everything with poison, you're going to want cold damage for your Corpse Lance. This is what you're killing Elite Packs with and Rift Guardians with. So if you do ever run an elemental damage, make sure you're running cold rather than poison. So the options here would be int, crit damage, crit chance, socket, or cold damage, crit chance, socket. The secondaries are just a nice benefit. It's always nice to have a resistance or damage reduction on secondaries for all your pieces of gear. And then for the Compass Rose, mine most important is socket. Mine has int, vit, crit damage, crit chance, but a lot of people are going to be running int, attack speed, crit damage, crit chance, dropping the vit off your ring for attack speed. If I had the option to do that, I'd probably be doing that if I didn't have any issues with survivability. So keep that in mind. And that's the other 2-piece set. This set's really, really good. While moving, damage taken is reduced by up to 50%. And while standing still, damage is increased by up to 100%. So you see this little 100 here? That's giving me a 100% damage increase. When I start running, that's going to start dropping. And my damage reduction is going to go up to 50. So now I've got 50% damage reduction, and then it's going to slowly going back up. It's not changing my sheet damage, but it does change the damage that I'm dealing. So that's really good. And by the way, the set bonuses for Inarius is really good. Your bone armor damage is increased by 1,000%, which can one taps trash mobs and stuff in Torment 13 regular rifts. You can just pop your bone armor and they die. 4 set bonuses. Bone armor grants an additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit. So you're actually getting a total of 5% damage reduction per enemy hit. It stacks up to 10 unless you've got the amulet, and then it stacks to 15. Then the 6-piece is bone armor also activates a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for 750% weapon damage and increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer by 2,750. So if you ever notice that you're not dealing a bunch of damage to something, it's probably because you didn't use bone armor on them. So make sure that you use bone armor on an enemy. I've been attacking an enemy before and wondering, why isn't he taking tons of damage from my corpse lance? And it's because I didn't have bone armor hitting them. So you got to make sure you have that and that they take damage by it, and all of a sudden you're going to be doing insane amounts of damage to them. So really important there. Now, we went over the Traveler's Pledge Compass Rose. As far as legendary gems, you want to be running the Mirine, the Pain Enhancer, and the Bane of the Trapped. I would say Bane of the Trapped is your number one most important, then your Mirine, and then your Compass Rose. Or, I guess they're all equally important, but you want all three of those, or not Compass Rose, Pain Enhancer. So get those highest level as you can. My Pain Enhancer is only 42, working on that now. Got this one at rank 80 and this one at rank 91. They're all really good gems, and that's definitely what everyone on the leaderboards is running, and they work really good with this build. So next up is your bracers, Ancient Parthan Defenders. These are what you want to run. You want cold skill damage on it. It goes up to 20%. You want it, you want Vit, and you want crit chance. The reason you want to run these is because each stunned enemy within 25 yards reduces your damage taken by 10%. When you use Decrepify, you have a 10% chance to stun enemies for 2 seconds. So anything that's stunned, whether it's by you or your friends next to you stunning things, will give you damage reduction. These make a huge difference in your survivability. So make sure you get those on. Next up, I'm going to look at your main hand. It's a two-hander. It's called Rilena's Shadow Hook. It is really good. Mine's fortunately an ancient one. What you want to have is high average damage on it. You want to make sure it's got 10% increased damage on it. Int. And then a lot of people are running either attack speed or Vit. Those are what I would recommend. But percent damage is the most important thing to have on it, as well as the int and high average damage. Don't roll a socket. Add a socket with the Ramelin of a Ding Dong's Gift. And then it's your choice. Depends on how it rolls. But I didn't really have the option. I'm stuck with Vit, but I'm fine with that. It's a lot of fucking Vit. And if I had the option later game and I had high Paragon, I'd probably go with attack speed on this weapon. And that's what most of the people on the leaderboards is running, is attack speed. But 10% damage is more important than the attack speed for sure. So make sure you got that. Belt. As far as for solos, you want to run this Dainty's Binding. And also if you're running high greater rifts in a group, you want to run this. If you're running lower greater rifts or Torment 13 farming, I run a Witching Hour. But what this does is gains an additional, it's up to 40 to 50% damage reduction when there's an enemy afflicted by your Decrepify, which is your curse. You only have to have one of them affected by it, and you're getting another 50% damage reduction. It's huge amounts of damage reduction. Again, if you're doing just like Torment 13 or lower greater rifts, you do not need this belt, and I recommend a Witching Hour. It gives you attack speed, it gives you more crit damage. Mine has int and life percent. So this is actually a really nice Witching Hour. This is what I run in the lower greater rifts or lower regular rifts, like T13 regular rifts. Witching Hour is a great one to use. Also for solo play, pushing greater rifts, you want to have a Unity equipped. The best unities are going to be max crit damage, max crit chance, max damage to elites, and a socket. You don't want main stat on a Unity ring. What this does is gives you all damage taken is split between wearers of this item. What you need to do is have your follower, I run the Templar, also wearing a Unity. So he's taking 50% of your damage. So you have 50% damage reduction when you use your follower and you're both wearing Unity ring. But what's really important is you have the Templar relic that makes it so that your follower cannot die. So since he can't die, you have a permanent 50% damage reduction when you both wear Unities. My follower wears a Thunder Fury so that it can chain lightning things and slow them. He uses the S of Johann so that when he hits things, it has a chance to pull them in and group them up and slow them. He also uses the Oculus Ring. This is really important on a follower, I think, because it has a chance to create an area of focus power and increases the damage by up to 85 when you stand in that circle. So when he kills something, or when you kill something, it actually procs really often. This guy's Oculus Ring procs really often for me, so highly recommend Oculus Ring. Gives a ton of damage if you're standing in that little circle. And then I run the Freeze of Deflection Shield. This, when he blocks, he has a chance to freeze enemies. It's not that important, but I'd say the most important here is your Unity with your Cannot Die relic, your S of Johann, and your Oculus Ring. Weapon and shield doesn't really matter as much. Another good is the Azure Wrath, or whatever it's called, that has a chance to freeze enemies. Put attack speed on him everywhere you can get it. That's always good. He doesn't need a gem in his weapon, but you can throw one if you want. You want to probably put a red gem in there to give him the average damage, if you do. But I run Heal, I run Intimidate, I run Charge, and I run Inspire. Those are what I run. It's up to you what you choose, but that's what I currently run. Now, I think we've covered all the gear that I'm wearing here. When it comes to playing in a group, and you're not running those solo greater rifts, you don't want to run a Unity ring anymore. So you want to take that off, and you want to run this Crispin's Sentence. This Crispin's Sentence. Currently, I have cubed. So I'm getting the benefit to Crispin's Sentence right now. But this is the ring that you want to wear. This is the only good one I've found so far. Socket, crit damage, attack speed, int. If I could change this, instead of the attack speed, I'd probably have the crit chance. But hey, it's still really good. And what this does is you deal, what is it? Up to 100%. Mine's not a great roll, 86%. Hold control to see what the max rolls are. Deal 80% increased damage against slowed enemies, or triple this bonus against enemies afflicted by any other type of control impairing effect. So this thing's really, really good. When you pop your Decrepify, what this does is slows their movement speed by 75%, and it reduces their attack speed, or reduces their damage by 30%. So whenever they're affected by that, you're doing 100% damage. So let's just pretend it's a perfect one. You're dealing 100% damage to them if they're slowed. And if they have any other controlled impairing effect, a stun, or decreased movements, or not movement speed, attack speed, then you're doing 300% bonus damage to them with this ring, which is a huge amount. And just them being slowed is enough. And you're slowing everything, by the way, with your Bane of the Trapped. It's reducing their movement speed right there. So, and that's anything around you is being affected by that. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're popping your curses to give them that debuff for your damage reduction and your and yeah. The other thing that you might want to run, if you're running in a group, like I said, is the Rigor Mortis, because this also reduces their attack speed by 30% and their movement speed. So if you're running Rigor Mortis and you hit them with any poison ability, it's guaranteed to proc this 300% bonus on the ring. Really important there. Now, as far as cubed items go, this is also something you can't forget about. You need to cube. These are very important build requirements. The Aquila Cuirass chest piece here. While above 90% primary resource, all damage taken is reduced by 50%. This build doesn't spend any resources. Your essence is never being spent. The only thing you spend it on is Decrepify, and it only costs 10 each time. I currently have 327. So you're never going to ever be below 90% primary resource. And if you are, you're doing something wrong. So this is basically a permanent 50% damage reduction. Huge damage reduction all the time with this. The next thing you're going to want to cube is either the Crispin Sentence, if you're running solos and you're wearing Unity, or if you're wearing Crispin's Sentence, what you want to cube is this new amulet. It's called Wisdom of Kalan. And what it does is it increases the maximum stacks of bone armor by 5. Normally, your bone armor lets you stack to 10, but this will let you do it to 15. And because of your set bonus, giving you the bonus 2% damage reduction per enemy hit by it, it totals 5% damage reduction per enemy hit by your bone armor. And that adds 5 more stacks. So that's a total of 25% more damage reduction by using that amulet. So that's usually what I run if I'm in a group. I wear the Crispin's Ring and I cube the Wisdom of Kalan. If you're running solos, you don't need to worry about the Wisdom of Kalan because there's no room for it. The ring is more important. That damage is just too important to give up. As far as weapon, this thing's really, really important as well. Trang Ul's Corroded Fang. It's a one-handed scythe. And the Cursed Scythe rune for Grim Scythe now has a 100% chance to apply a curse, and you deal 200% increased damage to cursed enemies. And I haven't tested it, but as far as I know, I can tell by each time I swing, I'm getting more damage. This stacks. So there's 3 different curses that you can affect them with. And each time you hit them, it can randomly apply one. Just because it applied one of them doesn't mean the next time you swing it's going to apply the other one. So it might take more than 3 swings to get all three curses on them, and you're going to be cursing them with Dizzying Decrepify anyways. So swing a few times, and what happens is once they get 3 curses, I believe it should be giving you 600% increased damage. So that's another huge multiplier. Even if they just have 1, you're doing 200% increased damage to them, which is really important. And so it's important. Like, so when you're fighting the Rift Guardian, before you start spamming your Corpse Lance, what you're going to want to do is curse him and then swing your Curse Sith numerous times at him until he has 3 curses on him. You'll see the little symbols above his head. Make sure he's got 3 of them. Once he has 3 of them, that's when you're going to pop your Land of the Dead and then spam your Corpse Lance at him now that he's fully debuffed. So it's really important to have this weapon, and it is awesome. So, oh, and this weapon, by the way, I didn't ever read its special ability. Every point of maximum essence increases your damage by 0.5%, and this part isn't important. Bone Spikes generate 5 additional essence for each enemy hit. We're not running Bone Spikes, so that doesn't even matter. Whether you get the 2 or the 3, the 4 or the 5, it doesn't matter what that rolls. It's useless. What's important is every point of maximum essence increases your damage by 0.5%. So you want things that have max essence on them. And that's one of the reasons that passive skill that gives you the max essence is another thing that you want, as well as max essence on your secondary of this weapon. It's just more damage. So now that we've gone over all of the gear, let's go over one more thing. If you're still grinding, you don't have rings, another good ring to either wear or cube is Convention of Elements. This is not a bad ring to wear or cube while you're trying to get better ones. This is the only other ring I would recommend, and I wouldn't recommend it over the other rings, but if you don't have them, this is a good replacement, or whatever you want to call it. It cycles through the different elements that are available for your class, and gives you up to 200% increased damage for 4 seconds while that one's active. So it's huge damage increase for 4 seconds every time it comes up. So not a bad ring, and usually I would cube that. It's hard to get a really good one like mine is, but if you have a really good one, you can wear that. Again, would not prioritize that over the other rings. Now, as far as how this build plays, your cycle of what you want to do, you want to use your Blood Rush first. You want to Blood Rush in, teleport into the enemies right in the middle of them. What Blood Rush is going to do is increases your armor by 100%, and it teleports you right up into them. So for the next 2 seconds, you're going to be a lot stronger than you used to be. So you're going to Blood Rush in, and then right when you're next to them, you're going to want to pop your Bone Armor. Really important. Pop your Bone Armor right away. because this is going to give you huge amounts of damage reduction. So then you pop your bone armor. It's going to harvest. It doesn't work unless you're around enemies. You want to make sure that you do that. It's going to stun things, and it's going to give you stacks, and it's going to give you tons of damage reduction, as well as deals a decent amount of damage. With that 6-piece set, you can kill trash mobs just by hitting bone armor. Right after you bone armor, you're going to want to use your Decrepify. Cast your curse on them. Make sure you hit the group of enemies. If you don't, if you miss it, you can cast it in a few different areas. Make sure everything you're hitting is cursed. It's really, really important. You can pop that a couple of times or a few times if you need to, if it's a huge group of enemies. And then you just want to start hitting them with Grim Scythe or Grim Scythe. And that is this attack. It's got a pretty good area damage here. This is what you kill trash mobs with, is this attack right here. This will also start giving other curses and get the stacks up to 3 curses on like elite packs. Once you do that, you want to use Corpse Lance on them. You need corpses to use Corpse Lance, or it's not going to work. So kill the trash mobs. If there's an elite pack, then use their corpses. They'll just be on the ground, and right-click or whatever skill button you use to use Corpse Lance, and use that for elite packs. If you're ever needing corpses and you're fighting an elite pack or a Rift Guardian, that is when you pop Land of the Dead. What Land of the Dead does is makes it so that corpse skills can be used at will for 10 seconds. You don't need corpses. So if you're fighting a Rift Guardian and there's no corpses around, you pop Land of the Dead, and for 10 seconds, you now have infinite Corpse Lances. It's really important not to pop that right away when you're fighting the Rift Guardian, though. You want to make sure you hit him with your bone armor first, then you want to make sure you curse him, and then you want to make sure you hit him a few times with your Grim Scythe and get him 3 curse stacks on him. Once you do that, that's when you pop your Land of the Dead and then dump as much Corpse Lance on him as possible, and he should be dead. That should kill him. If not, you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard to kill them because your Grim Scythe doesn't do the most damage compared to this thing. So that's pretty much what you want to do if you're ever in trouble. You just use your little teleport thing, your Blood Rush, and get out of there, or use it to get in there. Keep in mind, when you use this, it also pops your armor up, so it's really useful. It does have a 5-second cooldown, and it only lasts for 2 seconds, so it's not infinite. But use that as often as you can. Pretty much whenever that's on cooldown, you should be using it, as well as the bone armor. Just because you have 10 stacks of bone armor doesn't mean you should wait until it runs out to use it again. Just use your bone armor. Even if there's only 2 enemies by you, use your bone armor. It's not going to replace your 10 stacks with 2. It's going to keep you 10. Just use your bone armor whenever there's enemies around. They need to be harvested. You need to hit them with it. You've got to make sure you have swirling bone around you at all times. Really important, or you're going to be lacking in huge amounts of damage. You also need to get right up next to things and hit them with it. Otherwise, you're going to be missing lots of damage. So you can't really play this as a super ranged class. You need to get up in there, hit them to apply the 6-piece set bonus of this. It activates the Swirling Tornado, damaging them, and increases the damage they take from the Necromancer by 2,750%. That's huge, 2,750%. Just keep that in mind. Always hit everything with your bone armor. Really, really important. Otherwise, your damage is not going to be high. I think I covered everything else. Hopefully you guys understand that. I'll go over it one more time really quick. You teleport in, then you use your bone armor, then you use your curse, then you hit them with your attack, kill them. If there's corpses, you can use your Corpse Lance to attack them with it. If there's no corpses, you pop your Land of the Dead, and then you spam Corpse Lance on them and kill them. It just does insane amounts of damage. Usually I can kill Rift Guardians before they even can hit me. It's pretty insane what this build can do. It's likely that this is going to get nerfed by the time the seasons come out. People are already pushing over Greater Rift 100, and it's only been out for 2 days, which is pretty insane. None of the other Necromancer builds can even come close to this one, so I'm curious what they're going to do, whether they're going to nerf this, buff the others, what's going on. So this build might not be awesome next month. We'll see what they do. Oh, and by the way, if you guys didn't know, they added a new option to get a large cursor. It's awesome. It's HD. It no longer looks stupid and low. Oh, where did it go? I can't even see the cursor. What just happened? What in the hell? I don't have a cursor anymore. Maybe if I Alt-Tab and come back in. It's supposed to be a large cursor, but for some reason, it took my cursor away. Wow. That's weird. It's not supposed to do that. Wow. That's kind of funny. Where am I at? Large cursor. Uncheck that. Apply. The large cursor is nice. I used to use a thing called YOLO mouse. And, with this, for some reason on my computer, it's not working. On my other computer, it works. Maybe it works for you guys. Maybe you like it. Maybe you don't. But check that out. It's a nice little bonus that they added. I like the large cursor. But thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. Check us out live 24/7 on Twitch TV/StreamerHouse. I'm going to be playing a lot of Diablo for the time being, probably until Destiny 2 beta comes out mid-July. And depending on how long that lasts, I might be doing seasons. I might not. I don't know. But thank you guys so much. Maybe I'll see you around. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. I think... Oh! Paragon Points. I guess I kind of forgot that. Paragon Points. I'm over level 800, so I don't really have much thought to it. Everything's maxed out. If I was low Paragon, I would probably be stacking my crit damage and crit chance first, then attack speed and cooldown reduction. I don't really know. I would be giving myself armor first, then life percent, then life regen, then all res. You don't really need much all res because you're gonna have tons from all your int. You're an int-based class. For utility, I would go with fuck. None of these really matter. Area damage is cool, I guess. Resource cost reduction, that's not gonna really help you with anything. Life per hit's not gonna really help you with much, and gold find either. And then for your core, make sure you max essence first. That's most important. Maximum essence. Get you that first. Then give you enough movement speed to max you out at 25. And then I dump the rest into int. You can go vit if you want. You can go int if you want. Whatever. But that's how I do my Paragon. So thank you guys so much again. And maybe I'll see you around.